No niin. Hello everyone, welcome to Manna Insect's product launch. We'll be launching new technology soon, in a few minutes. We'll just wait a couple of minutes that everybody has a chance to join the session. We will be recording the session, so even if you can't access it now live, or if there are issues with your internet connection or sound quality or whatever, we will provide the recording upon request. So this won't be loaded anywhere automatically or sent to anyone, but it will be available upon request. Now, the setup for today is such that the Manna Insect CEO Marjanen will be soon presenting the new technology and explaining a little bit on why we've done what we've done, how we've done it, and what it really is. And you have a chance to ask questions, especially I'm sure that those of you interested in the tech side of insect rearing, especially have lots of things to ask Uka, as there are multiple world firsts included in this new tech. That said, the questions will be available at the right-hand side sidebar. I'm assuming you have one available, and there is either a chat box or a possibility to ask questions in the questions section. No matter which you use, I will ask those questions from Uka out loud after his presentation. So feel free to ask. Also, if you have any questions regarding the availability of this new tech, our head of sales, Toni Marjanen, is also joining the session live, I see. So you may also ask questions regarding sales, and I will forward those to Toni then later on, or perhaps he can answer some of those questions already in the chat. And also, of course, if you want to get in touch with Manna from any aspect, feel free to use the contact form at mannainsect.com website. Now, it's quite exactly 1 o'clock in Finland, 12 Central European time. Will start in less than 1 minute. So what we're doing here today is a new technology launch from Manna Insect. Another one, a slightly similar, different set will be launched at the end of October, when we're launching new tool for all insect farmers around the globe, especially those who are just planning to start insect farming, or those already operating a small or micro scale insect farm. This new tool will be very different to what we're going to launch here today. But nonetheless, it's going to be very important, very interesting, I'm sure. And again, making your insect rearing operations perhaps more scalable, more profitable, and most of all, helping you guide through the whole insect rearing process. Now, let's give room for Uka. Uka will be presenting soon the technology that we're very proud to launch today. And after his presentation, we will have a question. So feel free to ask those at the chat or questions sections. Uka, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And thank you all for participating. This is a first of our kind, as we have been working and developing products and deploying them, but we haven't really announced anything yet so far. And of course, this is the guide why we are here. And like we typically define and specify to our customers that we don't. Our main job is to enhance the performance of the black soldier fly and the larvae, but it knows what it does, and it has its own evolution that it has practiced it for millions of years, and our job is to understand and then get out of the way as much as possible. So we started in a very I won't say humble beginnings, but very cold beginnings in northern Finland, where this is a typical scenery for half the year, which means that, of course, a tropical species is not natural here, and thus we needed to start thinking, how do we climatize, how do we create the environment which is optimal for the larvae. And you already see, this is almost a 4-year-old picture. You can already see that there are containers there which we deemed that were suitable to get started with specific growing units for either breeding or rearing, so that we can separate the process and we don't contaminate our renters' warehouse directly. And these are just few pictures of every possible thing that we have done since we started and testing. And the key of our let's say development and learning was, how do we simplify, how do we create something that anyone can learn easily, and what does the larvae really need, and what is just extra. And we tested different sizes of cages, we tested different sizes of trays, different recipes, and even tried to do a very complex rearing units inside tubes and whatnot over the years. But eventually, the main motivation and the main potential is that if we can help, or not just help, but actually create a alternative protein source for corn and soy meal that any farmer in the world can use and actually make profit, or in this case save money by using it. I personally haven't met any farmers or growers that would be willing to pay more than for the soy and corn meal now to feed chickens or pigs or fish. So the price competitiveness is a very important part. And of course, the next important part is accessibility to the actual insect meal or insects larvae. And of course, that means also, how do you do it as locally as possible? Because exporting and importing it to another country and then selling it by bags easily becomes non-accessible. And if we can actually succeed in creating something that is price competitive to soy meal, we can actually then scale, and eventually every location can be more food secure and sustainable in a climate change as well, because the more local you do things, the, let's say, more environmental aware you are, and much better it is for everyone that we don't have these long chains over the globe, which can be disrupted easily and used as a tool for politics. So this gives you an idea of where we came from and our mission. And throughout this, we have actually categorized four areas where tools and solutions need to be developed to empower insect farming and farmers. And the first one is, how do we maximize the black soldier flies and larvae's capability to do their job? In a nature, they typically tend to do 5%, and that's already enough, and they will survive and thrive, and their population will increase. But for commercial purposes, we want that to be 80-90%. What can egg production maximum growing and as fast as possible? The second part is, of course, how do we create an optimized an environment for the farmer to actually do the farming and the insect production in any scale? What are the tools needed for the farmer and his or her employees to do the work, and define the tasks and optimize the labor costs? And then how do we simulate all the information around the world, all the new research, all the learnings from other farmers into something that everyone can immediately learn. And this part has been very tedious at the moment, because you need YouTube videos, you need tens of articles, you need to read hundreds of publications to get any kind of a picture of what can be done, and some of those are in conflict. So there's a lot of challenges in the learning and improvement part. And then the last but not least, how do you connect buyers and sellers so that anyone who can start insect production can actually easily start also selling, and as locally as possible. But today we of course focus on the first one. So I like to introduce you to the Manna Mind, what we call Generation 2 device, which helps you to maximize the efficiency of the actual mating and rearing part. And in this case, what the device does is that it can control any equipment and create an optimal environment for the larvae and the flies to do their work, let's say maximally. And what's inside the box is basically sensors that measure every possible thing that can be measured from the environment, temperature, humidity, and many different gases, to determine the state and the welfare of the larvae and flies. And we have algorithms that then determine how do we connect and control the equipment so that we can create the better environment. And everything is connected to the cloud. Thus, we can remotely control and add new instructions and new algorithms. So this is what we've done already over a year. And with this Generation 2, what we wanted to increase is one, versatility, meaning that the Generation 1 was limited to single phase 230 volt power, but now in the Gen 2 we basically are completely agnostic of any voltage or any power of those equipment. So it can be used worldwide, from United States to Japan to even industrial facilities with like 430 volt 3-phase input. Also, what we wanted to do was to allow different ways to power the Manna Mind and the equipment, meaning batteries, solar panels, and wind and turbine, so that you can be as standalone and as versatile as possible for the power side. The other part of the versatility was that we were the first version was optimized for a 20 feet container. And now the Generation 2 actually has no limitations on the size of the space. So you can now refurbish a greenhouse, you can refurbish a warehouse or a shed, or you can still use a 20-foot container or even a 40-foot container, especially for breeding purposes. So we wanted to give a more options, and then of course more cost efficiency to select different kind of environments. And regarding cost efficiency, the key and our main mission has been that how do we guide and enable as much as possible local sourcing and local assembly of the space and equipment. And in this case, we have improved and given more examples of different equipment. And now basically there's no limitation of the power requirement or the voltage requirement of those equipment. And what we do with the algorithms is that no matter what the equipment are in the space, we constantly try to minimize the power consumption based on the outside conditions and the conditions that the larvae need, and what are the ranges that the larvae are happy. So if the conditions outside are very hot, we know that the larvae can stand certain temperatures, so we don't try to unnecessarily try to cool to a minimal possible temperature, but to allow a higher temperature for the minimal power consumption. And in this case, we have increased also algorithms that you don't really need to know that much about growing or breeding. You just tell more or less what is the purpose of the space, and then the Generation 2 algorithms know the best possible conditions and constantly monitor and change those conditions depending on the larvae growth, for example. And also for breeding, the example nights and days of the flies have optimal temperature, so it's not a steady temperature all the time that is best. And this allows also to do very minimal manual monitoring, because there will be alarms if something happens, but other than that, everything works automatically in the background. And now for Gen2, we have added more sensors, so we get more detailed knowledge of especially larvae growth, metabolism, and how well the larvae are doing inside the trays, for example, during the growth period. And that allows us to do more, let's say, smarter alarms, where we don't only alarm if there is a technical issue with the device or power, but also we can alarm if the larvae are not growing or something has happened with the larvae. And that allows also to do a lot of analytics and reporting. For example, if you're doing feed or recipe tests, that you can get quantitative data of how well the larvae performed, and then you can change the environmental conditions and try again. And also you can add your own software and your own scripts via REST API to do part of the controlling and data analytics as well. And this, again, last but not least, has been very important part of our mission and our ideology, is that we don't believe this 0 to 100 approach where you're building big factories at once, but every module, it doesn't matter how small, has to be profitable and like a Lego piece that you can then multiply and grow organically in a level that is realistic and reasonable in the environment that you are. So you can start with a shed, a greenhouse, or a 20-foot container, and you can start multiplying the spaces inside a warehouse or separately in one location as much as you need capacity, and then you can start deploying to other sites, and via the cloud you are actually always connected, and then you can even go multinational to different countries. But everything can happen in incremental steps where you don't have to do a huge leap and take a huge risk, but you can actually organically grow. The other part is that you can actually grow fairly fast, which means you don't have to wait a year and a half to get building permits and start building a plant. Every space you can refurbish, it takes about 2 to 4 weeks. So you can easily do them incrementally, even after you have already sold your production, and then you can start building and adding the capacity. So a little bit more concrete on what are we actually defining, or what is inside the box. There is a offline and online connection. So the device is connected using our 3G and 4G modem with a SIM card that is global to our cloud, which can give you gives instructions, but it does work also offline. So even if the internet connection goes out, the device Manna MIND doesn't stop working. It just uses whatever information it already has and makes offline decisions. It uses a standard 12-volt power. Thus, it's completely worldwide certified and compatible anywhere. All the equipment and devices we use are certified everywhere. We have designed a completely new sensor module that has, in addition to temperature and humidity, we have 5 different gas sensors, from carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide, ammonia, nitrate dioxide, and oxygen. And there's also a possibility to add more sensors when necessary. And the actual control unit can control 8 different types of equipment, which can have any kind of power capacity. The lights are, of course, important for the breeding process, but to optimize humidity, you need dehumidifier and humidifier. For temperature, there is AC and heater separately. And then for creating optimal oxygen levels and also be part of the humidifying process, we can separately control incoming and exhaust fans, and then also the internal fans that circulate the air. Just a little bit about the cloud. The cloud itself ties all Manna minds into one unit, so you can have multiple modules inside, and then you can also log different actions depending on what is happening inside those units, and you define different alarms for them depending on the process. We use now AI, which means large language models, to do a higher level analytics on entomology side to decide what kind of conditions should there be next. And we also have weather conditions and weather predictions there to guide the models. You can remote monitor them using your cell phone or your computer or laptop. In most cases, there's really no need to monitor other than the actions that has been happening there from the operators. We collect all the sensor data is collected and backed up, so you can do analytics, you can do reference tests, you can do comparison, and you can export it to an Excel and or even third-party applications and continue using the data for other purposes. You can have multiple users and in your company, so you can give access to other people, and you can have managers and operators depending on different units in different locations. You can give access control. And then the last but very useful is that you can define alarms of what you want to see either in text message or email if there are any problems or something that you want to know as soon as it happens. And just to give you like a very concrete idea, as the previous one were 3D models, that this is not just a design thing in a 3D model. We have actually deployed these already. Gen 1 we have deployed for over 13 countries in 5 continents in a year and a half, and Gen 2 we have already deployed as well. And this gives you an idea on the right of how you can, in 2 days, you can basically take a very old shipping container or space, and we have a guidance and reference models on what kind of equipment and insulation materials in these. You can, in a couple of days, you can convert that into a very professional space to start rearing and breeding. And we have now done also different tests and continually improving, and we do of course help with the assembly. So we go in different places around the world with our customers to build the first one and train them on how they can continue building the next ones. But of course you can also just buy the Manna Mind unit, and we have digital materials for you to build yourself as well. So we have countries where we've never been, and there's multiple Manna containers there. And this is just an example of different materials that we have on very specific details on how to build the cages, how to configure the spaces with maximum capacity, depending if you're doing rearing or breeding, or if you're doing hybrid, which we call, where you can do all parts of the process inside one space to get started very cost efficiently. And with that, thank you, and I hope this gave you a good idea of what is Manna MIND Gen2, and I'm definitely open for questions and feedback, as this is the first product that we have so far announced.
Thank you, Uka. Yes, indeed, this is the first one with official launch. That's kind of funny, because we've delivered solutions across the globe, but we don't really launch them as such. So something like Manna Academy that we just started running, but then later on let people know that, oh, by the way, we've done this for a while. But thanks, Uka. Now, if there are any questions or comments that you wish to leave, then feel free to use the chat or the question sections. And Chris already has one question there. Uka, can you tell Chris how many customers are using these, and is this a popular technology?
Well, let's say tens. We can't disclose much more. We have many cases which we have started, and it is still this whole idea of using black soldier fly larvae, and especially using it this way let's say, and start. It's a very new industry and very new, let's say, concept. And so we are now delivering to different customers, but clearly the, let's say, the interest is increasing all the time, while also the practical applications and the practical knowledge of different, results of using it for chickens and pigs and fish come. And I think the important aspect of increasing the usability and practicality has been that people need to start, let's say, confirming that you can actually be price competitive to soy meal, which is still has been in the overall industry has been a out of reach.
Yes, and if I may add, Manna Mind solutions and these turnkey containers have been set up on 5 continents to something like, I don't know, 15 to 20 countries maybe. So yes, there are definitely dozens already up and running. And Uka, are Manna Mind Gen2 Manna Minds already in operation?
Yeah, we have first ones in operation, and let's say it is the difference between Gen 2 and Gen 1 from hardware perspective is more, let's say, an upgrade. So we have been able to upgrade Gen 1 minds also to Gen 2. So it's not like a completely separate new product in that sense. We basically upgraded many things and then, of course, improved the software. So we have already, let's say, Gen 2 versions up and running.
And how fast can a customer start operation? How fast can we deliver Manna Mind Gen 2?
A typical case, depending on the let's say the order quantities, it's 2 to 3 weeks. But let's say based on our practical experience in different countries, let's say making an order from us, if it's Manna Mind and not the turnkey container, the bottleneck typically is to then order the rest of the equipment like insulation materials and fans and so on. So I would say that we are still the concept that we have, let's say, sold is definitely the fastest to get started. It's less than 2 months you're up and running in most cases, including the assembly of the insulation materials and testing and so on. So typically the Manna Mind delivery is not the bottleneck. It's the rest of the equipment that we help to source as locally as possible.
Could you estimate the time? Let's say that if a Manna Mind powered insect rearing facility is set up in 1 to 2 months, can you estimate how much time would it take to set up an actual facility, like an insect production, let's say industrial level facility?
Yeah, it is a difficult question. I think most of the time goes into there's a certain let's say speed to do insulation and these kind of construction work. So of course, the bigger the space, it gets you can start adding days per square, a certain number of square meters, depending, or if you then have tens of people working, that's another thing. So it can easily go to months if it's a huge space. But what we have found out, the best model, and that was one reason why we developed the Gen 2, was that there are cases and customers that have a warehouse, but they don't want to insulate the whole warehouse. They want to start building modules inside the warehouse one by one. And this is a perfect solution and a perfect concept to do, because now you don't need to commit to whole space and spend months from zero to get anything done, but you can do 2 modules as part of the warehouse, maybe a 20-foot container size or 40-foot container size modules, and you can already start and you can start piloting, and then while you grow you can then just add more and more modules. inside a space, so they don't need to be. They're just like a sandwich panel, separated rooms, basically.
And industrial facilities such as like insect production factories, these take up to several years to set up, right?
Yeah, and of course this is a little bit, I would say, a more directed towards small scale, which what we consider, let's say, a few hundreds of tons of bio-waste conversion per month level. If you are really thinking like thousands of tons, then probably a like a more traditional factory model makes sense. But then we just want people to be aware that typically that concept will rarely lead to selling it as an animal feed, because prices tend to go way too high of the post processing and the exporting and all that. So we advocate more that you do a optimal size for that local environment for a few hundred kilometers, that the inputs of the bio-waste and also the customers are within that area. And when that capacity is saturated, you just build another one to that area where there is new customers and new inputs, instead of building one in one location and then try to logistically move the end products everywhere.
So scalable on-site, but also decentralized production works well with these lighter setups, right?
Yeah, I think this is more like a flexible way to increase production to a absolutely right optimal level based on the local let's say, inputs and output availability and customers.
And of course, if the bio-waste source or the end customer need would change, then of course the module would be easily transferable to elsewhere. But what about the cost structure? Can you explain a little bit about the comparison between the Manna MIND and then a turnkey container?
Yeah, so we have two let's say basic options for Manna MIND. One is that we have a starter package which is 7,500 at the moment, which includes Manna MIND, but also consultancy and also the digital materials and the pro versions for 6 months. And the idea with the first one is that we will put more effort and help to build the first one and teach all the different aspects of selecting equipment and using it, and also orient on the business and the processes as well. So that's kind, and then you can expect that depending on how you refurbish the space, do you already have a warehouse or something, the rest of the equipment and materials would be somewhere from 5,000 to 10,000 euros, so or dollars in practice. So you would be expected to have like a $15,000 first setup for a space. A container typically is about $16,000-17,000 with all the equipment and Manna MIND included. The turnkey starts from 25,000 euros, depending where you are in Europe. It's of course easiest for us. And that, of course, the benefit of the turnkey is that we do it exactly a 20-foot container based on our requirements and design, and deliver it right there and just plug and play more or less. And then there is additional training services. So yes, if you do DIY, you can save that let's say $7,000 by doing it yourself. So and we definitely want to offer that option and encourage if it's possible.
Great. Now, do we have any more questions? There's nothing on the chat or Q&A at the moment. We still have time left if somebody wants to ask questions, but if not, I think we're just about done. Jukka, do you have any sort of final words that you'd like to express regarding what's happening on the technology side, and you know, what should anyone interested in the Manna MIND Gen2 do next?
Well, the easiest is of course to go our website and then fill a contact form. My colleague Tony will contact, and we do have a sales presentation and the pricing and everything more detailed that we can share. The other thing is that if you like to actually see this in operation, we have many customer cases that unfortunately are private, but we do have cases in Asia, in India. We have a reference from, and here in Finland, which we always welcome people to come and visit and see. And also we have these 1 and 2 day academic trainings as part of that as well.
Excellent. I don't see any more questions, so I think you've just cleaned the table more or less. So I think we're at this point wanting to thank everybody who joined the session live, everybody who will access the recording as well. Feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. And then, of course, a reminder that we do run these free monthly webinars on all aspects of insect farming and the context and the sort of presentations and all of everything that we explained there. These are, of course, always evolving. So even if you joined one of our sessions in the spring, these autumn sessions and the next ones will, of course, all be then updated with new and relevant information, as well as coming up with totally new topics as well. That said, please do also tune in for the late October session where we're launching a brand new tool to run your insect operations. The link and all the details will be provided at our LinkedIn page. You can find Manna easily at LinkedIn by just typing in the search box Manna Insect, and the Manna Insect company page will be popping up. Thanks for joining. No more questions. So thank you, Uka. I think we're done and ready to get back to work. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.